Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hi, and welcome to Self-Improvement Atlas, the Personal Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm Marie Stella, your host from Melbourne, Australia. Let's start the show. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Self-Improvement Atlas, the Personal Science Insights podcast. If you've been on the fence about getting a pet, well, get off the fence. Today we'll be exploring how training a pet can help you develop patience and empathy. We are picking the brain of a very experienced dog trainer, Melanie Scott, who runs Canines for Vela, a not-for-profit charity that raises awareness and trains assistance dogs for first responders living with PTSD. Hi Melanie, how are you going today?
I'm good, thanks.
Tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into this dog training business.
So I started dog training quite a few years ago now, and I've always loved animals, particularly dogs. So it started off, I grew up in northern Queensland, and then I started a career in policing with Victoria Police. So I moved down to Victoria, and then I became medically unwell from everything that I saw during the job, and then I decided that I would need to change career paths, and I eventually settled on dog training because I love dogs. I'd always had a lot to do with dogs and been heavily involved with their basic training growing up, and that's pretty much how I settled on the dog training. And I just, it's really turned things around, and I really love what I do.
That's a lovely story, Melanie. When did you move to Victoria?
It was the start of 1999.
Start of 1999. I was in my head thinking like, 2010s or something like that. You don't look that old, which I know sounds like a backhanded compliment now, but Aiden can just edit that out. All right, before we get carried away, let's find out more about you and your hobbies, your interests, and the like. This is Have You Met Melanie Scott? What's your favorite book?
I think the most memorable book I've probably ever read is Schindler's List.
Mm-hmm. Schindler's List. What's it about?
So that's about how Oskar Schindler helped through his factory during World War II, helped a lot of Jewish people escape from Nazi Germany. I've always had a keen interest in things about World War II. My grandfather fought for Australia in World War II. I've always had a keen interest about it, and it was around the time that the movie Schindler's List was coming out, and I thought I would read the book because I was at school at the time. And I loved the book so much that I actually didn't see the movie.
What?
Yeah.
No. Well, I haven't seen the movie either, but my next question was going to be if that was your favorite movie.
No, it's not my favorite movie because I haven't seen it. I like comedy movies and stuff like that. I love to read books that are more about true stories and to learn information about things. Whereas when I watch movies, I like more to just relax and have a few laughs at some silly comedies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can relate to that, except I think I'm the complete opposite. I like funny books for some reason. It just keeps me so entertained. And then with movies, I like documentaries and learning things. So in that case, what would your favorite film be?
I reckon it would have to be White Chicks. That is
White
like the most
Chicks.
ridiculous comedy out, and I find it hilarious. Yeah.
That is a classic. I also feel like it's the go-to movie for any like sleepover, any like girls sleepover, or like just anything like if there's a bunch of girls, White Chicks, it's like just put it on and you're good. Podcast, do you listen to any podcasts?
Yeah, I think well, my favourite one, I particularly listen to this when I'm like walking the dogs or if I'm having trouble going to sleep or anything like that. Like I love listening to the Mr. Ballin podcast. So that podcast is from John Allen. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he started up like a YouTube channel and then like diversified out. But it's just like strange, weird stories, you know, often like mysteries or like murders or unsolved cases and stuff like that, or like true crime and that type of thing. So he tells it in a real like story format, so you really get engrossed in the story.
Yes, I love that so much. I'm a huge fan of true crime, and there are a few podcasts and YouTubers that I watch that do tell it in the story format, and it keeps you so just you're so immersed in it. It's just very, very, what's the word for it? It's just so mesmerizing, I feel like. But I don't know about you. I can't listen to it late at night.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I can listen to it before I go to bed.
Oh, you're brave.
Fall asleep to it. No, there's no real problem for me with that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just find it really interesting. And the way that he tells it, it's like more of the point of view of the person, and he gets right into the details about, you know, like what they probably would have been doing at the time and what they would have been feeling and that type of stuff. So it's a kind of it's the true crime thing, but it's kind of like a little bit of a slightly different spin on some of the other stories. So rather than just being fact-based, it's more about, oh, well, they woke up in the morning and fixed themselves some breakfast and it was a great day and such and such. So you're kind of setting the scene like you're actually in there watching them and with them as it happens.
Yeah. Do you know if he actually fact checks all these things? Like, did they actually fix themselves breakfast when they woke up in the morning? Or
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that he has like some creative liberty there.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you have a famous role model?
Look, I think I didn't really have that many famous role models growing up. But I think someone that I looked up to and always admired was, and still is, Shania Twain, the country music singer turned
Love her.
pop star. Yeah. So I think it was just like how her parents died when she was still very young, and then she had to come and become like the mother role model for her younger siblings, and she would work, you know, like late at night singing at bars and stuff like that to try and earn enough money to feed her family and stuff like that. And I think that, yeah, it's just the struggle that she had to go through early in life is just really huge.
She is country music queen, and she paved the way for Taylor Swift, who is one of my favorite singers. So I'm with you there. We are moving on to the interview section now. So how do you define personal development?
I think for me, it's just learning something more in depth about something that I want to know. So any particular topic. So whether I want to learn something about like tech or social media, how to do stuff, like it's more about how I would grow and benefit from learning that particular skill, and then researching it and going into detail, I think is probably the best way. But just thinking what do I need help with, or what am I interested in, and then pursuing that topic.
What would you say are the main challenges in personal development?
For me, it's probably finding the time to be able to do that, because I'm pretty busy and I've got a lot of pets, and I've got like a business to run and that sort of stuff. So it's more finding the time. It's probably the only limiting factor because I love learning new things and exploring different stuff. So yeah, it's just time.
Yeah, I think a lot of adults who are working full time can also relate to that, especially if they don't have a great grasp on work-life balance. It is a struggle. You get home from your 9 to 5 and you're just so wiped out and you just want to go to bed. I think a lot of people will agree with you there. So how do you think pet caring contributes to personal development?
Well, I think for me, it's been learning more about myself through the animals, because like each one's got their own little personality and stuff like that, and how they interact with the world and how the world interacts with them shapes the way the animal is. So I use a lot of that when I'm doing my dog training about why animals are responding in a certain way, or I just find that stuff like super interesting. So it's more I need to learn to understand what the animal is feeling and experiencing, as opposed to just putting my own beliefs on that animal. I guess it just teaches you to be more compassionate towards other living beings, I think.
So how many dogs do you have?
At the moment, I've got 3.
Wow. Are they big dogs as well?
Yeah, I've got I've got a German Shepherd cross Rottweiler. I've got a little pug, and I'm training a golden retriever. He's about 9 months old, and I'm training him for the charity that I run.
Yeah, I love pugs so much. Oh, I actually bumped into one the other day in like Hughesdale or something, and he totally rammed me over. He was actually like not that old. He was pretty young, but he was humongous, and he just like I fell over. But he was just trying to play, and it's adorable. So what are your dog's personalities like?
Okay, so Paddington, my German Shepherd Rottweiler cross, he is quite a timid dog, so he can be quite fearful and afraid of things. So he's on medications and certain, like I've got to have a lot of leeway in the way that I handle and manage him. So it's like he's got to have a very set routine. He's afraid of a lot of things with wheels, and he can get very boisterous when he's upset. So it's about managing that, and with his medication, and also doing like behavioural training and that sort of thing with him. He's also got a discoid lupus, so he's got a condition where when he's exposed to a lot of sunlight, he gets like a really bad rash on top of his nose. So it's common to a lot of shepherds and that type of thing. And then also some problems with the sunlight affecting within his eyes as well. So I need to keep him indoors a lot or under shelter. He's quite difficult to manage, but he's a very sweet dog.
How do you take him for walks if you have to keep him indoors?
It's mainly if the UV sunlight is below 2. So that's usually before 9 in the morning or after. In wintertime, it's about probably 4:30 in the afternoon. In summertime, it can be after 6 in the evening. That's pretty, like, that's easy to work around, but it must still be kind of like taxing to have this in your mind constantly. Like, I have to go and take him for a walk, otherwise I can't until this certain time. Before I digress, because I love hearing about your dogs and all their different personalities. I have a cat and I'm in love with cats, and finding the little personalities and the quirks is just so fascinating to me, but I have to keep on topic. Anyway. 3 cats as well.
You've got 3 cats as well. How do they live together? The cats especially?
Easily. Initially it was quite difficult.
Yeah.
the cats have got their own room. So 2 cats get along and the other one doesn't. But the one that gets along with the dogs is my little black and white cat, Claudia, and she's got vision problems. So I've had her since she was a little baby, and I'm actually in the room that her and the dogs spend the most time in. So there's a little cat scratchy pole left behind.
Maybe we could get a little cameo from the cats.
Well, I'm sure she'll probably make an appearance at some point. I'm surprised she's in here now.
That would be iconic.
Yeah. The other 2 get along really well together, but don't particularly get along with Claudia. So they've got their own separate area that they have involved. So they're all managed in a very particular way. And so is the dogs. It took a while for the cats and dogs to get along, but it's not that bad to be able to manage them. And if I'm having a shower or something, I just like put the dogs in their like crates and stuff like that, and they have their crates as their bedrooms pretty much. So they just hop in there while I'm in the shower, just in case like the cats start fighting.
Yeah.
And dogs fight up and they start barking and running around the house, because the second they get in the shower, that's the one time that they're going to do it.
I relate to that so hard. So how would you define pet caring?
Look, I think for me, it's realizing that like pets are a lifelong commitment. So rather than just getting it for the lifestyle that you have at that exact moment, like you got to think, you know, like over 10 years ahead, you know, like what would happen if I have to move out of this house? What would happen if I, you know, lost my job? Would I be able to afford it? Or if I wanted to go overseas, what would I do? So rather than just getting something that's convenient at the time and then not thinking far ahead, I think we all need to just know that, you know, animals have feelings too, and they get quite upset and can be quite traumatized when they're like moved around and sort of bounced around and that sort of stuff. So yeah, they've all got their own little personalities, and they just want to be loved. And I think that often we just treat them as some sort of like a commodity, like they're just to make us happy. But really we need to be making them happy too.
Mm-hmm. And because of their little personalities and quirks, and also inevitably different breeds would have different health issues, would you say that finance is something that people have to think about more when it comes to caring for a pet?
Oh, definitely. I think everyone gets carried away with the purchase price of the animal, whereas in the scheme of things, that's the least amount that you're ever going to spend. So you might be willing to pay, like, you know, during COVID too, some of these dogs were worth like $7,000 or $8,000. And people then would spend all of that money, but then if that dog needed like some sort of a corrective surgery or for their desexing or for their basic veterinary care or dog training or whatever it is, I think people spend the money on focus on not necessarily the most important areas. Like they'll focus on getting a really expensive dog and then an expensive bed and then, you know, such and such. But really it's about prioritizing, okay, like if I'm going to get pet insurance, do I get pet insurance before I choose the type of dog that I get? What sort of medical conditions are they predisposed to? Am I likely to need to get, you know, surgery for a potential hip dysplasia, or for pugs and other dogs, the brachy breeds, like surgery like potentially on their nostrils or on their throat to help them with their breathing? Do I have to factor in the cost of grooming? You know, do I have like a dog that needs grooming every 6 weeks? Am I willing to do that myself? Can I afford to get someone to do it? So I think a lot of times in the animal care industry, the people that are providing that care, they're they're seen as someone, oh, well, if you love animals, you should pretty much almost do this for free. But that's not how this works. I mean, you wouldn't ask an accountant to just do your tax for free or a lawyer to handle your case for free. So, you know, a groomer shouldn't have to groom your dog for free, or a trainer shouldn't have to train your dog for free, or a vet shouldn't have to treat your animal for free. Like, we do it because we love it and we want to help care for your animal. But, I mean, it's not different from any other profession. I think people just don't allow that money. And the reason why these services are more expensive is because it's not subsidised by Medicare and other things like that our healthcare system in Australia allows us to have cheaper medical care, whereas vets don't have that ability to be able to claim that back from the government and stuff like that. So, you know, it does seem expensive by comparison, but it's not that they're trying to rip you off. It's just that, you know, it's the cost of caring for animals. It can be quite high.
Yeah, 100%. And you do have to make a living on your own as well. You need to eat. You need to do everything else besides eat, because eat is like a basic human right. So what are some other unspoken challenges for caring for pets?
Look, I think managing medical needs can be a big one. Figuring out if you want to go away, that can be challenging as well. If you've got a dog like mine has got like anxiety issues, how you would manage that. If you've got a dog that you've rescued, like a lot of them carry with them a lot of emotional baggage and trauma, and how you would manage that dog or cat or like whatever it is. So there's a lot of challenges, and a lot of it is on personality as well. So you can often find that you may need to find like a quieter area, like for particular pets, because they may struggle with noise or struggle when there's thunderstorms or whatever it is. So you may need to have like some sort of plans in place to help them cope with stressful situations, or if they don't like visitors, or you know, if there's certain things that pets do and don't like, same as us. So it's just managing the environment as much as we can to help them. So, and have us live happily with them and them live happily with us, I think.
Yeah, I think especially managing the plans when it comes to like going on vacation, that is generally seems to be an afterthought for a lot of people looking to get pets, which admittedly was the same for me as well, because I got my cat when it was lockdown, and so like just going on vacation was so out of my mind, and just not like, I just didn't consider it, or I thought about it very briefly, and thankfully my cat is pretty easygoing and is very social, so booking a cat boarding place for him is not that big an issue. But I know some cats that just cannot deal like being in the same space as other new cats, and that would be very, very frustrating. Well, I wouldn't say frustrating. It's more of like, well, it's more work than you thought it was going to be, and it's not just the money, it's also like the time and effort, and you need to put that in if like you're caring for a pet. So adversely, what are some of the advantages of caring for a pet?
Look, I think it's the unconditional love that they give you. I think is probably the biggest benefit. You know, if you're having a hard day or whatever it is, they're always happy to see you. You know, they're always doing goofy things to, you know, cheer you up a bit when you're feeling down, and always do something silly and stuff like that.
What are some of the goofy things that your pets do for you?
I think in particular is probably Hamish, my pug, and just some of the facial expressions that he gets on his face. Like he can be so silly, you know, and just the way that he runs around and interacts with the other pets. He's a social butterfly compared to Paddington, but they complement each other well. So he's always there as like Paddington's little backup, his little support. We call him Paddington's emotional support pug.
Oh, that's adorable.
He boosts Paddington's confidence and stuff like that.
My heart. I love that so much. I have such a soft spot for pugs. They're just so adorable and just always manage to make me laugh. My cat loves to play catching with me. Like, he likes to tag me and then run away. Or if I have a friend over and we are not giving him the attention that he wants, he will stand in a corner and just give me the cold shoulder, essentially, which is like, that's a lot of attitude in one little body, you know. But it's this kind of personality that just makes you smile and, you know, realize how unique they are. Yeah. So how does caring for a pet influence one's personality?
Look, I think for me, it's made me more empathetic and more caring, compassionate. Like, I've had to try to be more aware of my feelings and know how my emotions impact on other animals and people and stuff like that. So when you've got, particularly for my PTSD, you can have a lot of trouble with anxiety and like stress and anger, and get like a fright easily and that sort of stuff. So that stuff you can see directly onto your pet about that. So I've always got to be very careful to like try not to get upset about things, to just try and calm my response down. And often that response feeds into your pet's behavior as well. So I think for me, it's more about trying to manage. That's helped me manage my emotions, and made me think that, you know, like, you got to think about someone other than yourself. So you got to put them first. And just, like, the love that they give you is probably surpasses anything that you would ever be able to give them, I think.
Mm-hmm. How does one develop patience and empathy when training pets? What are the specific activities that might help to develop these traits?
I think it's understanding an animal's personality, most of all. And like we were saying about them interacting with their environment and how their environment interacts with them is probably the biggest key. So you need to really understand how they, like, what's going to be triggering for them, what's going to calm them, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, what motivates them. And like, they're very similar, you know, to human beings in a lot of ways. Like, they're more motivated to do X, Y, and Z if they enjoy it or if they really like it. I think you just need to understand that they all have different ways of dealing with things. You don't have one like cookie cutter mold as to how every dog should act, every cat should act, every bird should act, whatever it is. Like, they're all very different. So I think learning that they are all different and that you do need to change the way that you interact with different animals at different times. And that's how you need to learn to develop that patience. It's not like, oh, well, my last dog, I did this straight away, you know, so this dog that I have must be dumb. It's probably maybe like there were different motivating factors for your other dog. You know, it doesn't mean that they're dumb. Maybe you're not teaching the trick correctly or not doing whatever it is in a way that they understand.
Yeah, or maybe you're not giving them the motivation that they want, because different pets are after different prizes. Sometimes some are motivated by food, some are motivated by toys. So for your cats and your pets, your cats and your dogs. For your cats and your dogs, what are their different motivations, and how do you deal with that?
Okay, so the main motivator for the cats, so Lexi, it's food. Dyson, it's toys. Claudia, it's definitely food. She will eat almost anything, and the lengths that she will go to is pretty extraordinary. She's very amazing at finding food. If I forget that I've left something in my bag, then she will hunt that out. And then for my dogs, for Paddington, like it is a bit of food, but he also does love his attention. For Hamish, it is food. He's also a bit for attention. And for Benny, it's probably food, but also toys.
Sorry, my brain just lagged for a bit there. I was just trying to read the next question that I was going to ask you. Then I was like, hang on, no, I wanted to ask a follow-up question. My bad. So these things happen like all the time. And yeah, so it's also 10 a.m. and I'm not a morning person. So this is a struggle for me.
I'm not a morning person either. It's like, if you really struggle.
Oh no, but you have to take one of your dogs out before the sun's too harsh.
Yeah, so I normally walk Paddington in the evening when I walk him, because even though he is allowed to go out earlier in the morning, that's when the kids start going to school.
Ah, right.
A lot of bicycles. There's a lot of little kids running around, a lot of noise. So he's better at nighttime. But my pug Hamish loves to get up about 6:30 in the morning, and then he wakes all of the other pets up, and then they all want breakfast straight away. So
yeah, fair enough.
No, he's an early riser. He's a morning. Yeah. And therefore I need to be a morning person as well. Not really a good choice.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So who would you recommend pet training for, or who would you recommend to get a pet?
Okay, so I think it depends on what animal that you really feel like you're drawn to, but then also does that animal fit your lifestyle? So I may be like a huge fan of border collies, but I live in an apartment and I don't have a lot of time. So it's like, okay, well, if I do want to get an animal, what would be more suited to my lifestyle? Would it be like a greyhound that's happy to just lounge on the couch all day if I did want a dog? Or, would it be a cat? I think it's just about getting an animal that suits the conditions and the lifestyle that you have. There's no point in saying, I really want to lose weight, so I'm going to get the most energetic, crazy dog there is, because I know that I will then go for runs. Chances are you're not going to go for a run. You're just going to have a frustrated pet that is going to be destroying everything because they're not getting enough physical and mental stimulation. So I think about being realistic in what you want to do. And for some people, like, pets aren't really something that they're that interested in. If you're interested in just something that you want to like look at and just sort of get a bit of relaxation from, I mean, you've got like fish and that sort of stuff that can, like watching fish can be very relaxing. But you don't have to be out walking them. They're very easy to take care of. Well, for the most part. I know that some of the species could be difficult, but
yeah, saltwater tanks,
yes,
not somewhere you want to go. Although they're
horses.
Yeah, although they are huge flex, but it's like if you are already, apprehensive about spending too much time or money on a pet, saltwater tank, probably not a good idea.
They're pretty difficult. So you'd be looking more probably at your guppies and goldfish, for an easy care type of thing. But no, look, I think, there's a lot of little pocket pets as well, but it's also about researching what you need to do to look after these animals. So it's about, okay, well, do I know how to care for a guinea pig? Do I know how to care for a rabbit? Do I know how to care for a dog? And actually looking into it and know what's involved. I often get frantic calls from people late at night who have just brought a puppy home and it's weeing all over the floor. Mm-hmm. And, it's to be expected, but often we just think puppy, cute, fun. Puppies are a lot of work. They are a lot of work. You need to toilet train them. You need to put up with and train them out of the mouthing and biting. They all go through that phase. Jumping up, they can be very demanding when it comes to needing extra food. You need to socialize them with their environment and other animals. Look, they need a lot of work. So just getting something because it's cute, spur of the moment, is not usually a good idea. So if you're just walking by an animal shelter, or you're looking online, or you're doing something and you see something that you really, really want at that point in time, just take a step back and just, can I afford this? This is going to be a longer term commitment. Do I know how to take care of this animal? Do I have the resources and time to take care of this animal? Because they're going to be part of your life for a really long time, and just not doing that split second impulse buy.
Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's going to be rewarding in the long run, but you have to make sure that you're financially and emotionally and mentally ready for it. That's really good advice. So for the people who aren't as financially or emotionally or mentally ready, could they try their hand at pet training or caring for a pet without actually getting a pet?
I think you've always got foster caring is always an option. So there's a lot of rescue groups out there that need foster carers. So that's like a temporary looking after their animals. So you're not into a long-term commitment with that, but you've got the animal for, months at a time. So that's a good way to see if you are ready. So if you are considering getting a pet and you think maybe I am ready, that's a good way to be able to test the waters. And then it might be, okay, well, no, this is a bit more of a commitment than what I thought. You've also got organisations that you can get involved with as well. So just helping raising money for these organisations, going and helping at some of the rescue groups, helping clean up after the animals, or getting a job in pet care or that sort of thing. You can work in the animal industry. You can become a groomer, a dog walker, a dog trainer, a vet nurse, work in a boarding kennel. There's a lot of different ways that you can, be involved in the pet industry. And some people love being involved in the pet industry but don't really want a pet. So they might be involved in making pet treats, making pet clothes, that's sort of selling, buying things in bulk and selling cat toys or whatever it is. So there's a lot of other ways that they can get involved. Pet photography is a big one. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And so, pet photography I reckon would be great. I'm not that great in taking the photos, but I reckon you'd have the best of both worlds, because you get to see the dogs and the cats and their owners and that interact. But then, when they're silly, you just get to send them home.
I have done actually a bit of pet photography myself, but it's always really frustrating. And also, not always frustrating, but it's frustrating when they don't listen to you and you're like, what do I do now? And you have to be so familiar with the pet's motivations as well. And if you just aren't going to get it sometimes, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot longer than people, and you just have to be really familiar with different kinds of pets.
You have to have a lot of tools in your toolkit. You need to have different types of toys, different types of treats.
Yeah, you have to be ready for anything essentially, because they can also poop on the floor when humans usually don't. You know.
You just never know what's going to happen. Yeah, they'll do the most embarrassing things at the most embarrassing times.
Yeah, but it makes for a good story. It's never a mundane day in that field.
It never is, and that's probably that can always break the tension. You know, like you'll have some serious moment, and then like your dog will burp or something, and they're just like it just breaks the tension.
Yeah,
and they're just they can be fun to have around. They can be very frustrating when you're trying to take a photo. But yeah, they provide a lot of entertainment. And when you get that great shot, like it's just...
Yeah, it's
excellent.
Chef's kiss. Yeah, work of art. Love it. So now we're moving on to the practice/habit experiment debrief. And this is where we ask you more questions about the everyday application of what you've just shared with us. So what is a practice that you do to improve your patience and empathy when it comes to training your pets?
I think taking things slow with them, and they learn better through repetition and consistency, and it's the same way that we learn. So being consistent as you can, being mindful that our frustration and stress levels play into their behaviour as well. So often if they don't understand how to do something, it's probably because we haven't explained it clearly enough and in a very repeated set way that they can pick up. Mm-hmm. They don't generalize very well. So if I think that my dog knows how to go to their bed in the laundry, dragging that bed out into the lounge room and telling them to go to their bed when they've done it once in the laundry, they're not going to be able to do it in the lounge room because they just haven't practiced it enough. It's a different environment. It's a different picture for them. So understanding that, look, we're expecting these animals to function at a much higher level than what they are. Mm-hmm. So we wouldn't expect like a kindergarten kid to be able to do like complex maths and stuff like that. But often we have these expectations of what our pet should and shouldn't be able to do. And it's about setting realistic expectations for yourself and for your pet. So just trying to keep things realistic and not expecting the world straight away,
Yeah. So are there any good things that have come from this practice? Has it actually helped you in your everyday life, like in other aspects? For example, with your kids, has it taught you a bit more empathy and patience with your kids? Do you practice the same, set of like just repetition and like explaining over and over again with other people as well?
Yeah, like I think knowing that you might need to explain something in a different way for different people because they may not understand. Having to slow things down and break it up into smaller pieces. And I think for me too, like having to learn to be more patient has always been a bit more difficult, I think, because I just get frustrated quite easily. And I think becoming more heavily involved in dog training has really helped me get more of a handle on my post-traumatic stress and help me recover. It's probably the biggest factor that's helped me in my recovery and help with my confidence and becoming more empathetic towards people again, because I became quite shut off when I became very ill, and it's just sort of helped me open up to people again and to let people in, whereas before it was more like everything's more fear-based.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm glad this has worked so well for you. However, are there any challenges when trying to explain things over and over and practicing patience?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I think it's about thinking like, have I explained things in a way that's easy? Just because I understand something in one way doesn't mean that that other person is going to understand it in that way as well. So maybe they've just misunderstood the question, or I may not be explaining it in how I think that I'm explaining it. So just sort of like stopping for a moment and just also asking them how, like, what they're having trouble with, or because it may be that they've just completely misunderstood the question or what I'm trying to explain, or they've got something else completely different in their mind that they're focusing on. So I think that is probably understanding where other people are coming from. I think is probably going to be your biggest, the biggest thing to help, because often it's not that people we automatically just think, oh well, someone's dumb or someone's something, like you jump to some conclusion that they just don't understand because they're not smart enough or whatever it is. But that's, 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. It's just that, they haven't understood what the question is. We may not have explained it properly. So don't automatically assume that someone, is like less intelligent or not paying attention or whatever it is. Like they may have some sort of cognitive impairment as well. And you might just need to explain it slightly differently for them to understand, or use different examples, use real life examples, or use something else that they find interesting. So that can be particularly helpful with people, like some clients that I know that are on the autism. They have autism spectrum. So it's about finding something that they're interested in and then being able to relate that back to them sometimes, and just giving them the extra time. And sometimes for some people, like more information is too overwhelming. So just trying super, like very basic instructions, whereas other people need heaps of detail.
Yeah, I feel both of that very strongly, because while I get overwhelmed by too much instruction, I also need clarification on everything, or I'll be like, well, technically this is right, and I don't know which you're asking of me, so I need to ask more questions. So yeah, I definitely understand and feel that. And that is really great advice. I feel like people should definitely start learning how to be more tolerant towards, or like open and like patient, just being kind and patient towards people with cognitive disorders or disabilities.
I think too that we've become less patient since COVID. That's how I feel. Like we seem to be less tolerant of things. Like we just seem more demanding, and it's all about everything has to fit in with me or whatever it is. It's like, we work we're in a society. We need to all get along with each other.
So in what ways have you experienced this?
Oh, I think people being very inflexible with times and places that they might want to meet or whatever it is. It's just like, well, that's not convenient for me, so I'm not going. Whereas I think we got used to being able to control a lot of our environment, I think. And now that things have gone back to like normal or whatever you want to say, we're used to having like a lot more control over what we do. And I think, you know, taking things for granted a lot, I think. So I think at the start of COVID, there was more trying to not take things for granted because we had so many things taken away from us in terms of freedoms and a lot of restrictions placed on us, particularly in Melbourne. But then when that started getting lifted and now we've gone back to, you know, like life as it was before, I think just people have become a lot less patient with other people, I think, and a lot less able and flexible to incorporate the feelings of others. I'm not really sure why that is, but yeah, I just think
especially because I think a lot of people have this mentality that like, oh, we've lost 2 whole years now. We need to get things back up and running and work double time to get to where we should be or something like that. I don't know. But on the flip side, I have seen people who are more patient now and more understanding of like different work situations. So I guess they're like 2 sides to a coin. Unfortunately, there's always going to be some bad situation out of these things. So hopefully we can learn how to be a bit more patient.
I think as customer service has probably copped it the worst.
Oh yeah,
that's
for them.
Yeah, where you see, and a lot more of those signs that pop up. Please be kind and patient with our staff. Like they really weren't around before COVID, and then people just started getting super mad. You know, everyone's on a deadline, everyone's in a rush. And that sort of thing. But I think that the flexibility in work hours has been great, especially for working parents, people with disabilities and stuff like that, you know, like the working from home option, telehealth, that's been fantastic.
Oh, telehealth has been a godsend.
Game changer. You know, there's so many things that, and you can learn a lot more things online. There's a lot more things that are a lot more accessible. And also getting people more confident with technology to be able to keep contact with people and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of benefits that have come out of things and a lot of ways that we've connected. But also I find that there's a lot of ways that particularly young kids find themselves disconnected from each other and society, and they've missed a lot of crucial socialization time. And I find that I find that really sad, but I know that we just have to support them and get them back into the right frame of mind and get them back out there and build their confidence and being able to interact with others and, you know, help them make friends and with hobbies and things like that they just weren't doing for a very long period of time.
Yeah, hopefully we will be able to find that balance in time. I have 2 brothers who are like in the teenage years as well, and they've missed out on what I feel like are very prominent aspects of their social life. So I definitely relate to that, and I really hope that we can find some way to help them integrate back into society. But before we get too carried away, let's move on to answering questions from the audience. These are just questions from, well, the audience about the topic. They're just about 5 questions, and we'll spend 10 minutes on these, if that's okay with you. Okay, so first question is, what are some good techniques or ways for teaching patience and empathy during pet training and behavior modification?
Okay, so I think it's just breaking things into little chunks. So that's going to help with your patience. So you're not expecting, if you want them to do like a whole sequence of events, like if you want your dog to like fetch a ball, you need to be able to like get them excited about the ball, and throw the ball just a little tiny distance, encourage them to bring it back to you rather than just pick the ball up and just throw it, you know, about 20 meters in one direction and then get angry because the dog doesn't understand to just automatically run after the ball. You know, we've got to break it down, like simple things into basic steps for them. So that is going to show you how to be more patient, because you need to be able to understand that even something that we consider easy is not easy. So there's also showing empathy that, hey, look, I need to understand that this may actually be really hard for this dog, or that dog, it may not actually motivate them. You know, I probably wouldn't be motivated by doing that. So, you know, not all the dogs you go to be motivated by that. I mean, I'd rather be one of the sipping on a coffee, you know, having a piece of cake, you know, like one of those dogs that sits back and just happy, just like under a bush, like chewing on a branch or something like that.
Yeah, me neither. That's such a good way of putting it, because I don't think a lot of people think of it that way. I definitely don't. But if I were to put myself in my cat's shoes, I'd be like, oh, this person is trying to get me to do something again that I don't want to do. Like, I'd rather be doing something else, like chilling out there or something. So that's a good piece of advice. Next question is, well, I'm going to choose which questions, because there's like 10 questions and I have to cut it down. Some of them I think have already been asked. So how can pet owners acquire tolerance while dealing with what role can function, blah, blah, blah. In what ways does the process of training and modifying pet behavior mirror our own personal development journey? How can pet owners effectively handle their emotions and reactions during behavior modification to create... okay, this seems like a good question. How can pet owners effectively handle their own emotions and reactions during behavior modification to create a safe and trusting environment for their pets?
Okay, I think that building that trust is a big thing. So particularly if you've got a rescue dog, it's very important. Or if you've just adopted a cat, whatever it is, like you need to give them time to adapt to their environment. So we don't just like rush straight into hardcore training with them. We need to be able to develop a bond with them and have them trust us. So having like a routine with them that they can then learn to know what's happening. Not expecting too much from them at the start, not making things too overwhelming. Same as when you've got a cat, you introduce them to one room and then further to further parts of the house and that sort of stuff, because it can be too overwhelming to just let them have access to the whole house at once. So I think it's more having realistic expectations of what can be achieved in that early stage, and also understanding that our stress levels are going to impact on that animal. So if we're going through a very stressful time in our life and trying to change the behavior of our pet, we may struggle to do that because we may have less patience than normal. We may be quicker to anger. We may have less time. We may just have so much going on in our life that we're so distracted that we can't give as much time. And then we take that frustration out on our pet, even though it's coming from within us. So being aware of your own emotions and knowing that that will play a role, and it often plays a role when I go to clients' houses and I've got a dog that is displaying these sorts of behaviours, and it may be linked back to, well, my partner just recently moved out, or I went away for 2 weeks and I just got home and then this problem started, or the neighbour's dog might have started barking. There's often external triggers, and we need to be aware of that. It's not just like normally like dogs just don't start a behaviour. There's usually something that triggers it. So before we start getting super frustrated, we need to understand what's actually the root cause.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it does parallel humans as well. If a child's acting up, it's usually not for nothing. There's a reason behind it, and whether that's like an undiagnosed disorder or trouble in the house that they are stressed out by, it's not just because they're bored. So I think that's very important to realize. So pet training is always tricky, and sometimes there's going to be setbacks, and it can be very frustrating. Unfortunately, how can pet owners maintain their patience and empathy during these specific challenging times, both for their pets and for themselves?
Look, I think it's usually when you're doing a training exercise, just make it short. So keep training sessions really short, so like 5-minute maximum. So you're keeping it fun and keeping the pet's interest and also your own. And if it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it. So it's going to become a chore and no one's going to want to do it.
Yeah, it's better a shorter, smaller chore every day than like a longer 1 hour chore every few days. So
it's definitely just breaking it up into small pieces and also finishing on a win. So finishing on a high. So there's no point just pushing and pushing and pushing until the point where the animal can't do it anymore and then stopping. It's about quitting while you're ahead, basically. So just do a couple of things. And then if that exercise is too hard and the dog still can't do it, we'll just get them to do something that they can do and then finish on that. Because otherwise they're going to get really upset and frustrated. It's often the case with interactive toys. So we give them puzzle toys and that sort of thing, and then they can't do it straight away, and then they give up. But it's because we haven't shown them how to use them and shown them how to succeed. And that's the downfall that, we get frustrated with them. I think, that dumb dog can't do this, blah, blah, blah. Everyone else's dog can do this, but my dog can't. It's because they just haven't been shown, a classic example was my little dog Hamish. He had a Bob-a-lot toy, which rocks at the base and dispenses treats. So I got him a new toy, a Kong wobbler. It's basically exactly the same thing, just in a different shape and slightly different size and setup. Does exactly the same thing. You just push it and the treats pop out.
I think my cat has that one. Is it the purple one?
Yeah, the dog one is red, but the purple one is the cat one.
Yeah.
Little fluffy tail or something. That one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he just had to push it the same as the other one, exactly the same. And he got so mad. He was just barking and he was frustrated and he was running around. He just could not understand how to do it. This is because the picture is slightly changed. So I just had to show him, just push it a little bit, to show him that treats came out. And then he got the hang of it and he was fine. But if I had have just quit right then, it would have been just I don't know what his problem is, the same thing. But he just couldn't understand. It was a slightly different picture. So you just have to be patient in knowing that sometimes they just don't understand, and you just got to try and make it easy for them and make it achievable for them, because otherwise they're just going to quit. It's the same as a kid. If you ask them to do something too hard and you don't like give them the help and show them how to do it, they're not going to bother doing it.
Yeah, I have the opposite problem with my cat. He knows how to do everything for some reason. So I try to get an auto feeder for him, so that's easier for like to feed him when I'm gone away for like a day or something. And he just learned how to open it up and just snack on it whenever he wanted, which was really annoying. And now I can't have an auto feeder because no matter what I do, he's gonna crack it open somehow. He like literally pushed it over. So I have a complete opposite problem, unfortunately. Do you have any advice for self-care practices to help pet owners themselves cope with the stress of caring for a pet?
I think being able to still take time out for yourself and have like little routines and things that you can do, and also incorporating exercise as much as you can, and not having to feel guilty. You know, you don't have to take your dog everywhere. You know, you don't have to take it to the cafes and have to take it to the dog parks. Like some dogs just aren't suited to that sort of stuff. And that's okay. Like you just don't have to be like really hard on yourself thinking, well, you know, I must be a bad pet owner because my dog doesn't like other dogs in the dog park.
Yeah. And I think it should be normalized to just be like, well, I need some time alone away from my pet right now. Because everyone needs time alone sometimes, you know. It's normal, it's fine. It doesn't make you a bad pet owner.
And actually it can be beneficial for your pet to teach them to be comfortable by themselves as well, because if we teach them to be too needy and with us all the time, we're like more encouraging separation anxiety.
Oh yeah,
how to be comfortable within themselves. So I think that's doing them a favor by not having them with you all the time.
Yeah, I think my cat actually got that after lockdown ended, because I was inside with him almost 24/7, and then suddenly I'm away for like 60% of the time, and he would cry the moment I leave. But now he doesn't anymore, so that's nice. So now we're moving on to the open mic. This is your chance to talk about anything that you are passionate about, and it doesn't have to be related to the topic. So take it away. The floor is yours.
Okay, so what I think I'm most passionate about is trying to raise awareness and get better services and facilities for first responders who've got post-traumatic stress disorder. So first responders are people like ambulance, the paramedics, police, fire. Here in Australia, there's like SES and CFA, so Country Fire Authority. Dispatch callers, those sort of people where you're exposed to very high levels of trauma and you experience them on a daily basis, and usually at a degree that most people don't get to see in their lives, and it's normally like a daily occurrence during the course of your work. So post-traumatic stress is experiencing like longer term effects after you've seen something or experienced something traumatic, and that can be, you know, like in terms of the first responders, that could be attending like a drowning or a car accident, or a child that can't breathe with asthma, or you know, like finding a deceased person or whatever it is. It's more, I think as a society we think that these people that do these jobs almost like superhuman to a large degree. But, you know, you're just the same as everyone else. You just do a difficult job to help people. And when things start falling apart, you don't really know who to turn to or what to do, and you often don't have enough services and support. So the rate of suicide is very high, the rate of marital breakdown and like dependence on substances and gambling and the other coping mechanisms that are unhealthy, drinking and all that sort of stuff, just to try and be able to cope. And there are often not a lot of places out there for people to get specific help. So I find that we really do need to have more education and awareness about post-traumatic stress in general, but also specifically for our emergency workers.
That sounds like a great cause. Yeah, so where can our listeners find your charity or your work if they want to find you?
So for my charity, there's raising awareness and training assistance dogs for including Benny, the dog that I've got now. You can go to Canines for Valor, so it's K9S4 number 4 and then Valor VALOUR.org. So we've got information there, and we're also on social media platforms under the same name. If you want to find more about my dog training business, Melanie Scott Canine Training, that's also spelt with the K, letter K, and then the number 9. You've got melaniescottcaninetraining.com. I'm also on all the socials. And yeah, I offer dog training like in-person consults around Melbourne in Victoria, Australia, or I do offer Zoom consults, and I will hopefully be launching some online other training and that type of thing.
So if our listeners want to participate in your charity, how can they do that? Do they donate? Do you accept volunteers?
Look, we always need volunteers, particularly for working with barbecues and raising money and that type of thing, because it's very expensive to train these dogs. It can be up to $20,000 to train each dog. And, you know, you can always donate to us. We've got banking details on the website. They're on our Facebook page. And just sharing our page, liking our page, following what we do, and just being there to support us. So then when we do have any sort of fundraising thing down the track, when it's online and that type of thing, then, yeah, you can follow along. You can donate, you can share our page, you can share our story, and just be part of the journey that we've got. We actually got a large portion of this money to start training Benny. We struggled for many years to try and get the money needed to start because it is very expensive, this process. And my friend Ron, who was also a police officer, he passed away from cancer, and some money was left in his will to us. And that's how we started being able to get this dog get this project off the ground properly. It was just kind of simmering away. We were just chipping away, lots of barbecues, lots of, like really grassroots stuff to try and get those funds raised. But yeah, like if you're wanting to volunteer and help us out for any of that sort of stuff, or yeah, even if it's like helping us do social media stuff, or like even if it's skill-based things, we're always open and willing to get suggestions and help from other people. It's a small charity, we're not for profit, We've only got a small board, but they're very passionate, and yeah, any way that you feel like you might be able to help us would be greatly appreciated.
That's amazing. So if you want to find out more about the charity and about Melanie's business, we'll link the websites in our show notes and you can go visit them. Thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us today. I had a lovely time chatting with you about pets and developing empathy and patience. You gave so many great pieces of advice. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Self-Improvement Atlas, the Personal Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. For more episodes like this from 10 different life management perspectives, search LMSL on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get updated on everything we have to offer. We have a wide range of topics readily available for you to check out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at pe.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Marie Stella. Thanks for tuning in.